Is this cool?
Yeah.
Yep. Did you see that sparkle? All right.
Yes,
Writer's right. Okay. So actually, first, let me ask you guys a question. What does success mean to you guys? Have you ever thought about what success means to you, particularly in the writing field? Has anyone contemplated that?
I have a lot. This is Jessica, since I want
Yep.
my face up. It's success for me is, I'm afraid, is monetary.
Yeah. I don't say afraid, Jessica. Well, no, own that.
It doesn't sound artsy enough to say monetary, but you know, I have expenses and debts and things like that I would like to pay off. And so even though writing Pride and Prejudice Variations is not the ideal, because I do have a little bit of a struggle, though the more I write, the more I can understand why people might like to read them, but I have a little bit of a struggle with that. But secondary, I do want people to read my books.
Yeah.
You know, I have a series of contemporary that almost nobody has read. And it's easy enough to say, oh, well, they're not any good then. Well, how do you know they're not any good? Nobody read them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
No. And I find it, you know, you love your writing. You love your books, right? If you don't, you're having a little bit of a problem there if you don't love what you're writing. And so I love my characters, and it's like having your child rejected. So those two things is what I would really like. And of course, one feeds the other. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, for those three, if anybody would read them, I would be happy whether or not I made a lot of money on them or not. You know, it's just frustrating that way.
I think too, because you love them and the characters matter to you and it means something to you and these stories matter to you. Just as they matter to you, they will matter to readers. You just haven't found that base of readership yet who will absolutely salivate over your books.
And I've done a lot of the things that people say you should do. I've changed the covers, I've changed the blurbs, I've done, you know, all those things. Yeah. And still nothing. It's like God is against me on those three. You know,
I'd say don't lose hope, Jessica. Don't lose hope. Yeah, you never know. So just it's cool. It's cool. And I would argue too with that monetary thing. As certain artists are allowed to charge for their work and other artists are not expected to charge, which I think quite frankly is bullshit. Sorry for the swearing, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit. If you can make movies for millions of dollars, yet somebody gets the exact same enjoyment from watching a movie as they do from reading a book, and the book takes longer to read than the movie, so it's technically a longer enjoyable activity, yet the book takes less to produce and less money. Like, are we any less valid as artists? Like, so Jessica, I would say own it. Like, you are an artist and you're making your living at your craft. Like, people have been doing that for thousands of years, and now we're weird about it because machines don't make it. So say no, own it, girl. You got this. Anybody else? What does success mean to them? Or how about you just keep that in the back of your head as you watch this. Okay, how many of us carve out enough time in our week, in our month, in our year, that we're happy with how much we write? Can anybody say yes to this?
No.
I can't say yes to this. And I write full time. I can't even say yes to this. Anybody? Nope. Okay. Then we're all on the same page with that. So I never considered myself a runner, and I started doing some math. I was technically more of a runner than a writer. And that is really crazy because I do not run far or fast or anything like that. I was carving out more time to parent. Obviously, that's a given. Work my day job, do housework, and yeah, even running more than I was writing. So that was a big, like, what the heck? Like, my first novella was published in 2009. And like, that's a long time to not actually be working at my craft as much as I wanted to be. So I knew I wanted to write more, but you can't just hope to write more. You have to change something to actually change your life so that you actually write more. Because hope is beautiful, and hope kind of kicks open the door for like what you want. But if you don't take action, if you don't change something, then hope's actually not going to get it done. So hope is just like whispers that dream out and makes you aware of what you want, but you actually have to follow up hope with action and changing stuff in your life. So I knew I wanted to write more. I also knew that I did not want to take time away from my family. That was a non-negotiable. Family time is very important to me, so I wasn't going to move on that. I had billable hours, so a day job to do, and I have to put food on the table, mortgage, utilities, stuff like that, and travel. Travel is super important to me, so billable hours I had to do, and that was cutting into writing time. I used to give up sleep, and I learned I can't. That is super detrimental to me. So I just made the decision. I made that change in my life. I was no longer going to sacrifice sleep for other things in my life. Exercise was becoming a priority. I have relatives who got really sick, and I don't want to follow down that road because it looks awful and miserable. And so I had to change. I had to make changes so that I wasn't living the same lifestyle that they were making, because I saw where it led to them, and that's no place I want to go. So I started prioritizing exercise, which made everything else go better, by the way. And about the same time I was prioritizing exercise, started prioritizing eating reasonably well, as in cooking real food. That was becoming a priority. And the more you love your life, this is for me, and maybe it's the same for you, the happier you are with the work you do every day, the happier you are how you spend the hours in your day, the easier it is to do proper self-care and take care of yourself. If I had a crappy day and was grumpy with my day job, I wanted takeout. I wanted to just throw something in the oven super fast, which packaged food for me, my body is like, what are you doing? And so then my energy levels just kept shrinking. And it was just this vicious cycle of being grumpy and not feeling good. So I decided I didn't want to give on those anymore. I already do a skeleton job cleaning my house, and I don't want to clean more, but I certainly don't want to clean less, because when my house is messy, it makes me grumpy, and I really don't want to be grumpy. So I needed to make changes. There's 24 hours in a day. What could I do? Actually, now I'm going to ask you guys a question. What are your non-negotiables? What will you not, what do you have to get done in your week, in your day, in your month? What aren't you willing to give on or can't because of your responsibilities and obligations? Can I get two people to mention something? No?
Well, I'm also an artist, and I need time to do both.
I only caught an artist, and you need time to do both, but I didn't catch the first part.
I'm also an artist, so I'm struggling.
Oh, a writer and artist, like a visual artist?
Two, yes. Awesome. Painter. So, trying to do two
forms of art,
creative work. And I realize, other people have full-time jobs and things. And so, but nevertheless, I do find it difficult to keep engaged in both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also wonder too, because I have friends that they get their creative hit through editing. They actually really feel satisfied editing other people's work. They get paid for it. And so when they've had a really successful week editing, they don't want to do their own work because that creative itch has already been scratched. And so, that's interesting too, that you do painting and writing. And so, having a way to channel your creativity in two directions, I imagine can be tricky. Yeah. Does anybody else? What is a non-negotiable for you?
I'll add something, Sarah. I agree with all of your list. And number one, I don't want to take time away from my family. I don't have a young family anymore, but I have grandkids now. So they take a lot of time. So you never get away from the family.
And I should have actually also said family and friends, right? Like, because we have friends that are closer than some of our extended relatives, right? So that's just, that's a non-negotiable. Time. We need each other. We need people in our lives, and we need people we care about. And I agree with you, Suzanne. Definitely. All right. So anybody else?
Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Hi, it's Shaw. And
hello.
I agree. My friends are very important to me. I've only got a small amount of family here, and my friends, there is no negotiating. I am going to keep in touch with them.
Yeah. And relationships, I don't like to use the word work because that has such, weird connotations with day job and stuff like I have to, but it does, like, relationships you need to nurture, you know, so that they're healthy, and that takes time and attention and care. And when you're focusing time and attention and care on that, it takes away from other things. So yeah, which is, and again, I don't think that's a bad thing. It highlights our priorities, and knowing our priorities, I think, is really important to living the life we actually want, like consciously want to be living, instead of being a more like a passive bystander in our own lives. Like, man, when I was in a corporate job, I'm like, what am I doing? This is so not me. Anyways, good call, Shop.
Thank you.
Okay, so when I looked at my list, my day job was my only non-negotiable. So, but I needed to, you know, do my part in supporting my family. So what was I going to do? And I looked around, and I'm like, well, scrambling to sell books, as Jessica, you know, alluded to, like the hustle, like I hate it. I hate that part. And I don't have a 20 book backlist like Jessica does. So I was looking like, okay, well, what are my other options? And I am surrounded by artist friends who have made their living, and in some cases, decades long living as an artist, practicing their craft. And they live on arts funding. They live on grants, and they have been doing this for years. And I thought, well, that looks fun. Why not me? Like, that could help. That could help me. So, and this is where the magic comes in, being part of that wider arts community and recognizing that we're part of that wider arts community. So for me, and I think a lot of people in this presentation, art matters deeply to us, and what we do matters. The books we write matter. Genre fiction has gotten, you know, kind of gets poo-pooed in some circles, like, oh, it's not literary, or it's not whatever, or it's not a movie, or it's not a painting, or it's not a sculpture, or it's not, you know, ceramics or glass or whatever. Well, the literary arts is absolutely part of arts medium. We communicate ideas, we push, I believe, our society forward, and our art matters. We matter. And we are part of the wider arts community if we let ourselves be. So sometimes I felt like in the early part of my career, I actually felt that, you know, writers, particularly genre writers, were like in this little like weirdo group, and that we did our thing and we practiced our thing and it was cool, and we supported each other and we loved each other, and that was cool. And we had lots of people that loved reading our books, and we made a lot of people happy, and that's cool. But we weren't like the real artists like other people. And then I thought, well, that's silly. And actually I worked at Calgary Arts Academy before my daughter went there for 7 years. And I really got kind of immersed in Calgary's art scene, and which was a really good eye-opener for me. A really good eye-opener for me. And I started actually presenting on arts-based approaches and using literary art, and in my case, creative nonfiction for this, to really, to help communicate tricky ideas and to help people in, well, I guess in my head, it's the policing, bridging the gap between the public and the police was where it first started for me. And that being seen as an artist and a literary artist and as a problem solver, and how arts can be a problem solver, like that started pinging. That was really good for me. That was really, really good for me. And it made me look at my art and our art, I guess, more critically, but I mean that in a really positive way. Like, holy shit, we are part of our wider arts community, and why aren't we like taking part? Why aren't we in line on time just like everybody else is for that? So for me, that was a really good perspective shift that had to occur in my head. And realizing that we're not alone. We've got our ARWA community. There's tons of great writing communities within Calgary, but there's like Calgary has a huge art scene, whether it's theater, music. Our writing is off, like the number of writers in this town is mind-boggling. We have a great art scene, and we're part of that if we want to play. If we want to dip our toe into that pool or jump in, like we can. We're artists too. And I also learned that doing my art doesn't have to be a struggle. And I think for other people, I've heard that, like, God, you pour your heart and soul into these books, and like a handful of people buy them, and you know they're good, and the reviews you get, like people love them and they resonate, but there's only like that small group. And I guess that stereotype of like, you have to be a struggling artist in order to be relevant, like that's bullshit. I call bullshit on that. We don't have to struggle. There are people who actually, there are a lot of people who fund arts, who appreciate arts, who value arts, who see how vital and crucial it is for our communities. And some of them fund because they wish they were artists and they can't, so they do what they can to support arts, and others are artists and they give back. Like, whatever the reason why arts are funded. So, yay, that's good for us. Our stories hold magic, and literacy matters. Our art is vital. So something for me, actually that middle one, that literacy matters as an art form, I think, I'm going to back up a little bit. I worked a long time in the corporate world where I wrote technical reports, archaeological technical reports, and Indigenous knowledge technical reports. And they could have, if we were allowed to go off-road, we could have communicated the information way better, way better if we were allowed to be more creative with it. The environmental consulting world is just starting to learn that. However, I worked with so many people where their actual literacy skills were subpar. And these are university graduates, and they couldn't communicate worth a crap. And it drove me insane. And I just wanted to like take them by the shoulders and add, like, do you read? Like, read a book. This helps. I swear to God, it helps. You will become a way better communicator, a way effective communicator if you actually read and learn how to process these words and give yourself the time and space to learn these skill sets. And reading can help you become a better writer. All of us know that. That's like kind of writing 101. Be a voracious reader. Literacy matters in our art form. Writing is one of those with form and function. It's beautiful and it serves a purpose. And some things the purpose is just beauty, and other things, the purpose is beauty and effective communication, or beauty and teaching something. Interesting, engaging, and learning, breaking down barriers, building bridges. That's why I love this art form. I love all art forms. Like I truly do. And when I'm not too busy, actually ceramics is my other art form that I really enjoy. But for me, writing is such a potent, vital part of being a productive member of society. And when I say productive, I also mean productive for yourself, and getting the most out of that you possibly can out of life, and enjoying it the most you possibly can. And it's just, I'm really, really passionate about it. So our stories hold magic, literacy matters, and our art is vital. Always remember that. So part 2, what happened when I got an arts grant? So I want to give you guys a little bit of background. For me, arts grants was more than money. Jessica, just like you said, it absolutely was money for me, like, because the only thing that I was going to give on was my day job, or the only thing I wanted to give on was my day job. But being accepted into our wider arts community, when I got that grant, when I got the letter, it said, on behalf of the citizens of Calgary, and I can't remember, like, as per whatever, but that hit me like that was something that the money couldn't give me. Just that, on behalf of the citizens of Calgary, basically, we value your project, we love your project enough that we're going to give you $10,000 to be an artist and create your work. That I don't even know, I know I'm a writer, but I don't even know how to communicate in words the validity and the support and the external community love by a city that, you know, Calgary's cool, but I've never actually felt that rush of like, holy crap, like, of actual belonging. So that I didn't realize I needed, but because I responded so well to it, I realized that that's also a vital part of when you do get an arts grant. I started taking myself more seriously as an artist. Even applying for grants, that takes time. It takes time, it takes attention, it takes care. So you're pulling time away from your writing and from some of your other things to put forward the best possible grant as possible. But it's also taking yourself seriously as an artist. And when I look back, with my first novella being out in 2009, what have I done? I've got some short stories. You know, my novel was optioned for a movie. That's cool. The nonfiction went really well with Detective Sweet. We sold a bunch of, like, that's cool. But like 10 years ago, when I realized I love writing, if you would have asked me, where do you see yourself in 10 years? First of all, I never asked myself that question, but I would have expected actually more. So now I just want to find that new gear for myself, and writing the grant helped me do that. being a career artist, that resonates with me. And now I realize I am, but granting helps me get there. Yeah. And that also, why not me? Like, other mediums have artists that are supported by public arts funding, and why not us? Because God, like, reading books, that's just, I gobble them up. I love them. Anyways, actually, that England example I'm going to give to you later. So I do want to say a huge shout out of thanks. And actually, they're not here right now. I sent out the invite yesterday, but they weren't in the office yesterday. So my grant was from the Calgary Arts Development, and I cannot overstate this enough. Like, just, it truly changed my life to be successful with that grant. So a big number, my productivity increased by 1,000%. So can I just have people turn on their microphones? What would you accomplish or achieve if your productivity increased by 1,000%?
A lot.
A lot more.
A lot more. So it's not only that my time was funded so that I could not do the billable work, expectations that I have of myself, but all these other cogs in the wheel that came together to really jazz and inspire me and push me forward, so that I got 10 times more work done. 10 times more work. Like, that's incredible. I also learned that hour-wise, I cannot sit and write for 8 hours a day. Jonas Saul does. I have no idea how that man does it, because I don't work that way. Like, that's just not how I create. 3 or 4 hours are my sweet spot. Sometimes only 2 hours, and then I have to get up because my body gets really antsy and I have to go for a run or a walk or do some housework and then come back. So, but that, I learned more about myself and what I need to create novels. And it was really great because, yeah, productivity 1,000%, which is cool. So let's do some math. So in the last 12 years, I've written just over 200,000 published words, and that's between novellas, short stories, novel, nonfiction, creative nonfiction books. And I've got about 90,000 unpublished words that are feeding into the rest of the series that I'm working on now. So that's cool. So I rounded up to 300,000. And in the last 4 months, I finished the first draft of an 80,000 word manuscript, and I'm 10,000 new words into the next one. So I hope I did my math correctly, but it's 10 times as much stuff in the last 4 months than in the 12 years before that. So holy crap. And it's not just the money thing. It's not just the time. It's the believing in myself. And I hate to say it, just like Jessica, sorry, I'm really riffing off what you said earlier, how, it's not artsy to like want to be paid for your work. But yeah, like, I also know it's not really artsy to like need that external validation to act, but it really helps. And it gives you that momentum to know that you're supported and pushed forward. And so as much as I'd love to say, no, I can do it all on my own. No, man, that external validation, we're part of a community, and we can harness that energy and that value to move ourselves forward and become more productive each time we sit down to write. Just everything moves forward. And I can't overstate that enough. It's really magical. Okay, so I went from really sporadic writing to writing 5 days a week, sometimes 6 or 7, but for the most part, 5 days a week. And oh my God, before I was so guilty. I'm like, oh my God, my book's not done yet. And guilt is like oh man, that's an energy sucker, and that wastes time. Oh my God, whatever you're feeling guilty about, family stuff, writing stuff, whatever, stop. Just figure a way to just drop that crap, because that sucks your energy like nothing else. And don't feel guilty. Figure out, and if you need to figure out how to not feel guilty, figure out how to not feel guilty. So by consistently practicing your craft, just like anything, you're going to get better at it. I was growing exponentially as an artist in those 4 short months. Like, it was amazing to see myself, how I wrote faster. I went from writing 300 words an hour to some sessions, 1,000 words an hour. Not every session, but some sessions, 1,000 words an hour. And that blew my freaking mind. But just like anything, whether you're playing the bagpipes or figuring out how to run a 5K or like whatever, when you practice it, you get better at it. Cooking, when you practice it, the more you cook, the better you are going to be at cooking, and the quicker you're going to be able to pull together amazing meals. the same is true for writing. When we actually practice our craft, we get better and quicker and more efficient and know ourselves as writers and artists more. And it was like this avalanche of awesome that just kept snowballing and snowballing into all these really positive things in my life. So I'm really excited to be sharing this with you because it's really had a positive impact in my life. Also, I finished my manuscript years faster. Years. God, it was amazing. I became inspired. And I don't know about you. Actually, when was the last time you guys were inspired? Anybody? Actually, can I get two people, at least two people, to tell me when was the last time you were truly inspired and what inspired you? Anybody?
I'm inspired on moving to BC because I'm hoping it'll give me more time to write.
That is so cool, Randy, because I've heard you talking about BC and I can't remember who teased you like, I've heard that before. And you're like, no, May, I'm going in May. And that is absolutely inspiring. Good
and
stuff.
I always knew this city does not inspire creativity in me, ever.
And knowing that about yourself and taking action is so potent, Randy. I'm really excited for you. Excited for you.
Living in the country, listening to cows moo and the moose in the backyard was really creative for me. And
awesome.
then being in the city is not creative for me. But where I'm going to is Sycamoose, which is a very small town.
Mm-hmm.
And Bambis and bears and everything will be there. And I know I'll be very inspired there.
And it's cool because you've done enough self-reflection to know that floats your boat. Like that's what works for you. And you took action. And again, that action is so important because we get these sparks of inspiration. And sometimes they're seeds that need to like just kind of hang out, before they bloom. And other times they just, as soon as they hit the ground and they blossom. And other times they just need to incubate for a while before we take action. But that's awesome. Anybody else? What has inspired you recently?
Hi, Sarah. It's Shaw again.
Hello.
And I have been inspired several times. Some of my inspiration comes from my beta readers, their encouragement. Lori just sent me some words on my last story, or my story that I'm writing on now. And oh my goodness, I could hardly sleep because I am into it.
Awesome.
So, and I'm doing this memoir. I mean, I was no more into memoirs than Flying to the Moon. And Darlene read my memoir and bingo, I've got a memoir for the book. Like,
awesome.
So I think it's the people that are in my life, my beta readers, my friends, who have inspired me to move forward.
That's awesome, Shaw. That's awesome.
Yeah,
good
it
stuff.
is. Thank you.
Very, very cool. Cool. Anyone else before we move forward? All good. Okay, because you have to articulate what your plan is to the grants committee, you have to figure out what you want to do. And that too is a super potent exercise. So this book, and I put the link in the chat earlier, this is the book that I used. This was kind of like my how-to guide for grant writing. And the author does a really, really, really great job of talking about that. The value of figuring out what you want to do, what your project is. Why do you want to do it? Why is the project good for you as an artist? Why is the project good for your wider community? Those sorts of things. Because that's what, depending on your grant, on what grant you're applying for, and read the guidelines. That's another thing. Read the guidelines. Just like if you were submitting to an award or agent or an acquiring editor, read the guidelines, follow the guidelines, give them exactly what they're asking for as clearly as possible. Make it super, super easy for them to say yes to. But so this process though of like, well, what do I want to do? And for me, it's finishing this series. Why do I want to finish this series? Like big picture, this series, as much as I love it and I absolutely adore my characters, I can super resonate with that, Jessica. Like I love my characters, and sometimes it's hard to finish a book because I'm not ready to say, bye to my characters because they're so fun to write. And that was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. But big picture for the series, like I need to wrap this shit up. Like I thought I'd finished this series a long time ago, and it's time to push that forward. And writing the grant helped me really articulate and kind of reflect on what I wanted and what my goals were. And because I'm not used to setting goals. That wasn't me, 15 years ago. I wasn't a goal setter. I was just like, let's just, kind of bounce around life and have fun and like just be happy and it's cool. And now I'm like, well, that's good, but I know I love to travel and I know I love to write books. And these are the things I want to experience in my life. And these are the feelings that I think those experiences are going to give me that I really, really love. So know your why is important. And that has really, really helped me. But that's another presentation, knowing your why, which also leads me to, as I got this grant, I started taking myself more seriously. And I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to achieve what I want to achieve? These are the things I've laid out to achieve. And now I actually have to with one of them because I'm getting paid to do it and I have to report on it. I have to produce so that I can keep getting grants, so I can keep being accepted. I have to actually deliver what I promised I was going to. So last year, I don't know if you guys saw it, James Kademan, who's a business consultant and also happens to be my older brother in Madison, Wisconsin, he gave a presentation, a business coaching presentation. And Mark Leslie, you guys, I think you guys have seen him at When Words Collide. Really awesome dude, author, consultant. He created Kobo's author platform thingy, and now he's at Draft to Digital. Really great guy. Anyways, I saw those two men and I'm like, I need your brains together. I need, James, what you do, and Mark, what you do, and I need you to put it together so that authors like me who want to get traction, so authors like me, like Jessica, like Brett, who have, well, you guys have more books out than I do, so that we get the traction that we want, that we get the traction we've been hoping for and trying to achieve and whatnot. So I bugged them and they're like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And I'm like, no, really, I need you guys to do this. So they're doing it. They're doing an author boot camp. Actually, it's authoring boot camp masterclass at When Words Collide this year online, which is super cool. And I'm their prototype. So that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have gotten the grant, because I was tenacious. I mentioned it in August, got the grant in October, bugged them. And in January, I'm finally like, no, this is important. They're like, cool. Will you guys just organize this and we'll do it. So that's cool. I also started a writing accountability group, which I know for some, your critique groups are your accountability group because you have pages that you have to deliver, in a timely fashion. And that's cool. I needed more than just getting pages done. I also needed the business side accountability. I need to update my website and having to be accountable for updating my website and doing the social media crap that I actually really, really don't enjoy. And I still need to learn on that. But these are two things that happened and spun out of taking myself more serious as a career artist. So it was awesome. So an audiobook, I was super lucky. A voice actress chose my book, asked for permission to use my book as her portfolio piece. Holy crap, amazing. She did the narrating and paid for professional production herself so that it's as part of her portfolio piece. And it took her longer. It took her a year longer than she thought it would, which is fine. People are busy, whatever. She's also a mom and life happens. I finally got my book out, my audiobook out. She had it already a year ago, but I was in the throes of day job and other stuff. And it was on my to-do list, kept meaning to do it. And then finally, I'm going to do it today. And it worked and it was good. So that spun out. So I actually in February signed a 5-book deal with Stark Publishing. Yay for my series, which is super exciting. And before I would have hemmed and hawed and I don't know when the books can be done. And so that's another thing that spun out of it. I'm rebranding my series because Mark at Stark, he's like, I can't get behind this cover because he didn't resonate with it all. But he's like, Sarah, you actually write thrillers, not romance. So yeah, rebranding, which is cool. Because I had been hemming and hawing for about 4 years on that front, and it finally took the jump and just said, just do it, Sarah. And Jessica, like you said before, you've tweaked the covers, you tweak the blurbs, stuff like that, and having that versatility. And because I used to have the rights to it, I had that freedom to tweak. And now I love working with Mark, and so he's really keen to listen and stuff like that. Okay, by being accepted as an artist by others, I saw myself more as an artist, as I've said, and I took more action. And I really can't stress the kick in the pants, the fire under your butt. I can't think of any more cliches to talk about. Just act. Do what you want to do. have the career that you want to have, and take the steps necessary to have the career that you have. And be flexible. Pivot when you need to pivot. Try something. If it doesn't work, reserve the right to change your mind and try something else. And you're going to hit it. It's going to work. But you have to act. You have to be persistent. You have to be tenacious. And you got to believe in yourself. And sometimes that really sucks. Like I've had book signings where I haven't sold a single book, and that is awful. That feeling is awful. I have to say, it was with that old cover, and I bet I'm way more comfortable selling the new cover. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But act. You're worth it. Your art's worth it. Your books matter. You matter. But you have to take action to actually achieve what you want to achieve. Because again, that hope is good, but hope is passive, right? You're sitting back. Acting is like, I want that, so I'm going to get it because it's really cool. And I want that experience, and I'm going to go get that experience, which is awesome. So the art grant was an acceptance. And like I said, that external validation from the wider arts community that the art I do matters. That too, because, you know, they're, as we know, like, oh, you write genre, like that's not literary and boring. So like, it's not worthy or value. Like that sucks. Anyways, yes, it does. Genre fiction's awesome. The writing industry, as I'm sure every single person on this presentation knows, is not for the faint of heart. Getting the grant helped my head game, because this industry, you have to do it because you love it. If anybody thinks they're going to get rich quick as an author, I actually don't know anybody who's gotten rich quick as an author who hasn't put the time in. Maybe you guys know, but that's like such a small percentage that's not part of our discussion right now, because this industry, you have to be tenacious. And you have to be in it for the long game. You have to be in it for the long haul. And that is draining. It makes you weary. Sometimes you're just like, enough, this sucks. Oh my God, I can't do this anymore. That's too hard. Well, yeah, it is really hard. So just bring it back to the basics. Like, why are you doing it? Why do you write the books that you do? What support can you get to help you so that it's not such a struggle? And that's what I love about grants. Like, you're getting paid to do your art. You're getting paid to be yourself. And that's freaking amazing. So I hope every single person watching this today goes for it, puts out applications, and you get it, because that feeling is amazing. And I truly believe that the more people in this world doing what they love, the better this world will be, because the happier this world will be. And that matters. All right, part 3. Applying for grants. So this might be actually the only part you guys wanted to see, but I do really want to stress, art grants are not a given. Just like when you submit to anything, whether it's a short story to a magazine, hoping to get it published, whether it's to an agent, acquiring editor, whatever, being a writer and putting your work out for submission to be either chosen or not sucks. Like, that part of the gig sucks. And it's of an emotional roller coaster. Grants are no different. When you don't get an arts grant, it sucks. So I did get the Calgary Arts Development one. That's true. Now I'm going to tell you the England example. So in 2019, yeah, Detective Suite in my book was released in October 2018. And the following February, actually it was before February, but the following February, there was a grant deadline, Alberta Foundation for the Arts, February 1st deadline. And I knew I wanted to present to the British Society of Criminology Conference in Lincoln, at the University of Lincoln in England. I knew I wanted to present on arts-based approaches. I knew I wanted to present the book at that conference. And I was really busy. And I had been really busy with editing and getting the book out in time. And so months before, I'm like, Dave, can you apply? Are you comfortable applying for a grant? And he said, yes. And I said, great, apply for a travel grant. This is the conference. This is what, I won't know if we're accepted until after the grants are, deadline's already passed, but that's okay. Do you need help? Nope, I got it, Sarah. He didn't have it. And I asked him, like, I don't know, month or two before the deadline, Dave, are you on that? Yep, I haven't done it yet, but I will. It's cool. 5 days before the deadline, I'm like, so how's it going? And he's like, I haven't started it, Sarah. I was so frustrated. So I wrote them. So this is another thing. Some, depending on the granting agency, they have rules where you have to apply, get accepted, before you can apply for granting opportunities. Read the guidelines, read how they do things, because each place is a bit different. So for the Alberta Foundation for the Arts, at least the last few years, it takes 5 business days for you to get gate access. And I emailed them at the end of the day, I gave them like 4 days, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this, I know this is late, and I totally understand if you can't do it, but I'm asking for gate access, and they gave it to me. So they even broke their own timeline, but they gave it to me. So I pulled together in 4 days my first ever grant application, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I thought, the answer's no if I don't get it, and flying to England's really expensive. And so I whipped it together, sent it in, didn't get it. And one of my colleagues at the Calgary Arts Academy, she got her travel grant to give a play at a conference in Prague. How cool is that? So she got hers. I didn't get mine, but she had written grants for years and never gotten one. She happened to hit it on this one. So just keep trying, man. So I was bummed when I didn't get it, but I'm like, I wouldn't have given it to me, because like that must have been like a ridiculous application. So learn from your mistakes, give yourself time. It's cool. So ask yourself, sorry, I'm going to back up a little bit. Why do you want an arts grant? And again, is it just the money or something more? And just the money is okay, but just be prepared. Doing the application is going to organize you like nobody's business, and getting the grant is going to fill your bucket in ways that I didn't even imagine. And it was amazing. It was amazing. So also consider though, is prioritizing a grant application a better use of your time than writing? Because for some people, 100% absolutely. For other people, no, it's not. It's just not. And I don't have a secret wand or a secret handshake to know which ones are. But if money's the only reason you're applying for a grant, other alternatives, and this actually, it was cute because she talks about it in here, might be a more productive use of your time. Because grants are not a given, picking up a gig or two in your field may be a better option for you. Because if you pick up a paying gig, it's a paying gig. And if that paying gig is either the same amount of time or less time as it would have taken to do the grants application, then maybe that's a better fit for you. Oh, sorry. Do your research. What granting agencies do you qualify for? So there's Canada Council for the Arts. Guess what? I don't qualify as a regular artist for Canada Council for the Arts. I had my first book out in 2009 with an American press, but that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant to them. I'm not a real artist. So the American press isn't one of the big four, so I'm not considered a real artist. So I did get status as a new and emerging artist, which this is a pilot program, and it's a window, and they were just going to do it for, I think, 2.5 years, and we're at the tail end of that 2.5 years. So if you guys want to apply, and Alberta Foundation for the Arts has a 5-day window to get gate access, and once you're in, you're in. Once you're approved and have a profile, then you can apply, for all appropriate grants for your profile. With Canada Council, it's a 30-day window. So let's say there's a February 1st deadline. You have to apply 30 days before February 1st to get accepted before you can actually apply. Just so you guys know. And each granting agency is different. Some will be super chill where it's like, yeah, just, here's a super easy, things to fill out and, upload supporting material. And others, you actually have to apply to be able to apply and get accepted to apply for stuff. So figure out which ones you qualify for. So Canada Council, even with the number of stuff I have published and out, it's not enough to qualify as a real artist in Canada Council's eyes, but I did qualify for the new and emerging one. So, yay. What are the timelines, and do you need to apply like I just said? Does your project fit the granting opportunities you are applying for? So there are so many granting opportunities. So do you want professional development? Are you applying for a grant to go to a workshop in Thailand? And how does that impact you as an artist? And how is that going to benefit you as an artist and set you up as an artist? Are you applying for, or maybe it's something smaller and maybe you just want to go to Kelowna because there's a writing workshop that you want to go to, or maybe you want to take a screenwriting course that's an online screenwriting course through UCLA, which I did just check out, by the way, which is cool. Yeah, what do you want to apply for? Or is it like a project? You want to create something? Do you want to research for a project? Research the feasibility of something. Are you actually writing a book and that's what your project is? Do you need to fund an editor? Like, let's say you want to work with, my editor's Adrian. I love working with her, but you get what you pay for and she's awesome. And so I have to budget for sending her manuscript. So I absolutely budgeted for her. So figure out what the project you want to do is, and then what areas are best for you. Brett, the province of Alberta has research grants. I don't know if you know this, but historical research grants. Just so you know, I think you'd be an amazing candidate for that cycle. I think February 1st was the deadline for that. And one of my writing buddies who's into history, he sent in an application. I hope he's successful with it. But there are lots of cool opportunities out there. You just kind of have to start looking like.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
My question is, when you apply for a grant to go somewhere else, say to Vancouver, to that big conference.
Oh, Surrey. Yeah.
So when you're asking for the money, do you ask for only the cost of that or for your living while you're there?
Oh, let's say you get 15,000. Let's say you can ask for a max of 15,000.
Right.
I would ask for my plane ticket, the cost of the ticket to be there, get the meal plan because it's easier, and then you can network, whatever, and that's a few more $100. The cost of your hotel, the cost like a per diem, a day per diem. I would ask for everything required for me to go there. I would 100% ask for everything. And there are everyone has budget templates. Everyone that I've seen, you fill out their budget template for everything. So let's say it's a per diem, and let's say you're in Vancouver, so your food per diem is going to be like $50 or $60 a day, as opposed to like $40 a day or something, like whatever you think is necessary. And do your research, because if you're applying for that one, chances are there's going to be maybe 5 or 10 other people also applying in the thousands of applications they get. Well, in some cases it's only hundreds, but yeah.
So now that they've given you money to go, does that mean you cannot claim the trip on your taxes?
Oh, the money that they give you to go is you will be taxed on it.
You're taxed before you get it or later?
You are. So I just got my T4 from Calgary Arts Development. So I have to claim, well, I was going to claim it anyways, but I have to claim that $10,000. Right. So I have to pay taxes on that $10,000. So you bet your booty that I'm going to use the receipts that I use. So the editing work with Adrian, and also for that one, hardware was included. You could I actually bought a new laptop.
Oh,
because with everything online, my laptop was old. I knew chances were high that when Words Collide would be online again. I wanted to do some trailer work. I knew I had, and actually I added this ARWA presentation as I'm going to finish, do a first draft of my manuscript and send it to my substantive editor. And I'm going to give ARWA, and I actually included you guys. I'm giving this presentation to ARWA because this matters to me and I really want them to hear it. And so I also asked for money for a laptop, and there are certain, for Calgary Arts Development, their rules, and double check it because rules change all the time and guidelines change all the time. But when I applied, it was $1,000. You could $1,000 of your budget could go to capital inventory or what, I can't remember what it's called. And so, but Alberta Foundation for the Arts and Canada Council for the Arts do not accept that. Right. So really be careful and read your guidelines and know which grant you're applying for. So yeah, you have to claim the grant money you get, but then you can also claim the expenses associated with it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I would, that's my understanding. I would absolutely talk to, if you've got an accountant, or go to CRA's website to confirm that. But that's how I understand it. And so that's what how I'm going to give it to my accountant to figure out.
Yeah, you can write off all your expenses. Quick question. This historical research grant is the Alberta Foundation of the Arts to them?
No. The province of Alberta.
Province of
Yeah,
Alberta.
because it's not considered an art project. It's a historical research one.
Because I have a book I want to write about the Great March West.
Oh,
And
for
I wanna
sure.
travel
Yeah.
that route.
Yeah.
I want to
So
travel that route.
that would be a prime candidate. I feel from what I've read about that would be a prime candidate. So another thing, and I'll loop back to this later. It's in a slide. There are webinars by the granting agencies. Go to them, sign up. Most of them you have to sign up for to get the link, right? Sign up, attend, get your face out there, ask questions, become like network, be part of that. So not only do you get your questions answered, right? Because we're communicators, we know how to, digest stuff, but sometimes the people writing the guidelines for the grant applications aren't necessarily professional writers. So sometimes you will find something you're like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if this works or that works. So go to the webinars, and some of them are like pre-COVID. I went to 2 in-person ones, which were awesome. So go to those, meet people, network. So now I know I can email Brenda at Alberta Foundation for the Arts. I've met her. I adore her. She's amazing. She was super helpful. I was not successful getting my Alberta Foundation for the Arts grant that I applied for. However, one of my friends this year was her 9th time submitting the same proposal. 9 times. So that's 2 sessions a year. And 9th time's the charm. She didn't get the full 15, but I don't know how much she got of it, but she got a partial funding this year. And so 9 times, that's 4.5 years she's been trying with the exact same project, and she finally hit it. So whoever, just because you don't get a yes doesn't mean your project is not valuable and of value to the arts community and yourself as an artist, et cetera, et cetera. Keep trying, be tenacious, try not to take it personally. I know it really sucks. I know it sucks. I know it's hard. I get it. But be tenacious and believe in yourself and keep trying, because when you do get that, oh my God, it really changes your life. At least it did for me, and I hope it does for all of you. It's amazing. But really pay attention to the guidelines, read them, know them. And sometimes you have a project and you're like, I could make it fit that. And if you want to take the time to write your application to make it fit, that's cool. But I think you have a stronger case if there's something that's a natural fit for you, because your passion will come across in your application, right? Yeah. What is a reasonable expectation for the application time commitment? So again, when I was doing the Canada Council for the Arts, at the end of it, they have, did this take you 0 to 30 minutes, 30 minutes to 60 minutes, 60 minutes to 90 minutes, or over 90 minutes? And I'm like, holy shit, this probably took me 7 hours. Like, who only does 30 minutes for a freaking grant application that's worth $25,000? So be realistic with time commitments.
Who have done several.
Or never, right? Because it's the new and emerging one. If you've never done one, then maybe you're like, yeah, I'll just whip something together. And you know what? Maybe that works for some people. Maybe they're successful, but with me, I just couldn't imagine. Now, 7 hours, that's probably on the high end. So maybe 2 hours will work for you. Maybe 4 hours will work for you. Or maybe 90 minutes will work for you. Like, I don't know. Try it. You don't know until you try, right? So give yourself enough time. Read the guidelines and any fine print. So some places, they want your full CV, everything you've done. And other places, your CV can't be more than 2 pages, or your artist's resume can't be more than 2 pages, or can't be more than 4 pages. Those are not blaring, those are not blinking in big, big font, big letters, those are tiny, and that's a weed out process. Read the fine print so yours doesn't get chucked, right? Automatically chucked. Just like any other submission, you don't follow the rules, you don't get looked at. Follow the rules, get looked at. Be awesome. You guys got this. So,
my daughter Shayla had someone in Ontario who really admired her work, and she knew him from somewhere, and he offered to fill out the form for her.
Oh, right on.
Which is great, because she had no idea.
Yep.
And she received a grant to help with paying the costs of getting the album she's in the process of it's finished, but she's releasing a couple of singles before she releases the final thing.
Awesome.
But then when you do it yourself, just like writing, but even more so, you have to pay. You have to pay the cost of the studio time. You have to pay the person to actually print or press or whatever.
Yeah, press the CDs. Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to pay for the artist to, or the photographer to do your cover. You have a lot of expenses before you can even sell. And so
absolutely,
she got a grant for that from the Alberta Council of the Arts. So
yeah,
that there's such a broad spectrum of opportunities. There
really are. And arts are just one of those things. Arts make people feel good, right? I don't know about you, but with COVID, this last year has been really hard, like really hard. And traveling is my sanity. Like, I go camping, I travel, I hop on an airplane to other countries. Like, that keeps me sane. And I haven't been able to do that. So books and actually movies, I watch way too much Netflix, but art has gotten me through and kept me, for the most part, mentally stable through this crazy year. Looking at sculptures online, like touring museums online, which is cool that, you know, you can do stuff like that too, or seeing operas online. Some of them are streamed through Netflix or whatever. Like, seeing stuff like that, art has really helped me. And I've heard a lot of people say that this last year has been really hard, and the arts have been what really got them through. Yeah, so and arts funding has actually increased, not decreased. Yeah, which, sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place, but that's me. So sign up for newsletters and read them. I'm on a bunch of newsletters. Sometimes I have time to read them, sometimes I don't. But when you actually get in the know, when you start participating in the wider arts community, you know that, you know, the Canadian government just, you know, released how many more millions of dollars to fund artists during COVID, you know, that sort of thing. You know that with Calgary Arts Development, they had anonymous donors donate a crap ton of money to help just kind of band-aid people through some tough times, you know, with the arts, with COVID, stuff like that. So I wouldn't have known that except being on these mailing lists. I hear that now. So whether it's provincial mailing lists, arts mailing lists, art foundations, government, private, nonprofit, whatever it is, get on mailing lists and start getting in the know, because there is a lot of cool opportunities out there, and pick which ones work for you and which ones don't. Also, there are artist residencies available too. Some you pay for. I'm not interested in those. I don't want to pay to go on vacation somewhere, because I already do that. And paying to go on vacation when I can't bring my family is stupid. However, an artist residency where I have to pay to get there, and then room and board's covered, or my flights in some cases are covered and room and board's covered, or it's a nominal fee, a super tiny fee. So I actually applied for an artist residency. I just sent in my application yesterday for a place in Maine. But there are a ton of those out there too. And so those aren't funding to do your work. It's room and board and time to do your stuff. Some actually will pay you to be there, like you get a stipend. So it's like a grant to do your work, but it's a grant to do your work in an amazing place. So those, obviously the competition will be more stiff for those, as opposed to the ones where they just give you a space to do your art. But even those opportunities, like, that's just another way to set yourself up for success. I know I work best if I'm not, you know, if I get quiet time away from my family, who I absolutely adore, but they're going to do something fun over there while I do my art over here. Those sorts of things. So yeah, mailing lists, get Google search it, like, what's out there? What cool stuff is out there? And what cool stuff do you want to do? That time commitment though, are you spending all your time doing that, or are you actually getting writing done? So balance, find your balance. But this, if you know you want to do something productive, but you also know that you just don't have the headspace to do that, but you also don't want to binge watch a TV show on Netflix, and you're like, well, let me look at granting options or research options or artist residency stuff. Yeah. You found a grant you want to apply for. Now what? Okay, some granting agencies, you have to apply. We talked about that for that profile and be accepted ahead of time. Just know that. But when you guys are doing your research, you're going to know that. The information sessions, go to them. And with COVID, they've all moved online, which is super handy. Also, look internationally. So I focused on city, province, national for Canada. But then I'm like, wait, I'm also an American citizen. So I looked at American ones. Where are my books set? So you can also, there are international opportunities as well that you can apply for. Some, if your book is set in a place, like some you have to live in a place, and that, like, that's not negotiable, but see what their eligibility requirements are. Some you don't have to live there. Your content just has to be about the place or promote the place or whatever. So think outside the box, do your research, and just like, the sky's the limit. The opportunities are there, but sometimes you just have to like search. You just have to explore and see which ones are the best fit for you, what you do as an artist, your projects, that sort of thing. Do not wait for the last minute to apply. If your profile is rejected, that feels crappy. But usually there's a 6 month, like every 6 months, they do more, right? So let's say you missed the February 1st cutoff or deadline, but there'll be another one in September, right? So just, it's cool. Just plan ahead, set a calendar, those sorts of things. Also, do not wait till the last minute. Sorry, this server overloaded one. I was giving this stellar advice. Don't upload, by the woman who got the Prague one. Sarah, don't wait till the last day, because everybody's uploading and the server can't handle everybody uploading at the same time. So you could get locked out and not be able to meet the deadline. So do it early. And so I did that. That's cool. But one of my friends, she texted me, she's like, did you get in? Like, you know, her husband was locked out. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It was working 20 minutes ago. And this was like 2 days before it was due. And he was having problems and 2 of his friends were locked out. So as the due date comes closer, if you have to upload things, there might be a problem. So give yourself buffer, because you spent all this time creating the best kick-ass application ever for the coolest project in the world. And then if you can't upload it because the servers are overloaded with other people trying to upload, like, that sucks. So give yourself time, give yourself buffer. Okay, start early. I cannot stress this enough. Start early. Give yourself that wiggle room, that buffer, because life happens. Let's say you scheduled this week, I'm going to work on this grant application, and then you got the coolest gig in the world where somebody wanted you to write a short story for, I don't know, People magazine or Time magazine or something, and you're like, oh my God, I have to prioritize this because this is amazing. But then you're crunching, and anyway, so just start early. You just never know. Be clear. You know your stuff. The art people don't. Let's say you've got a painter who's reading your application. Like, let's say their art's focus is painting or metalwork. Yet they're reading a literary arts application, right? Because that's how it works. Like, your jury is a jury. It's not a jury of your peers necessarily. It's a jury of arts, people who dig art. So be clear, be thorough. And again, knowing your why is good, because if you know your why, you can communicate that on your application. Make it as easy as possible for them to say yes. Write your application so that there's no other option than for them to say yes, because of course you're the perfect person to write this book, because this is you're the perfect artist to do this work. I would also recommend peer review. So having another writer read it, as well as a non-peer review, having a non-writer read it. And if they can make sense of your project and what you want to accomplish, gold, because the chances of an actual writer being the person to review your work, I don't think I don't think writers are the bulk of people who make up the jury process for these. So this book, like I said, it's on the screen, it's here. This book, when I get a bee up my butt, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to write an arts grant. And so I looked on Amazon and there were tons of books, but this is the one that was like glowing at me. So I got it. It was like $15 or whatever. Holy crap. I really resonated with it. She made lots of sense, really dig it. She's American, so she talks about more American things, but I've only applied for Canadian things and it works. all worked for me. So, and also remember, have fun. This is exciting. This is your art. This is you getting paid to be yourself. This is so cool. So I really hope it's helped. Okay. I also, thick skin. As exciting and fun as this is, remember thick skin, because when we don't get that external validation that we hoped for, or that we put ourselves out there for, it sucks. It really sucks. But that's okay, because that's the gig. That's the job. That's the industry we're in. Keep trying. Be tenacious. Persist. Long game. Also, what'd you learn? You just wrote a grant application. So tweak it and use it for the next one, right? Like recycle that content. It won't take you 5 hours next time because you've got most of the content, right? Like find your silver linings. Have your hissy fit. Have your like bawling session, or like grumpy set, whatever you need, right? Like just to let that disappointment just flow through your body. And then I let myself just be sad and like, oh, that really sucked. I was really hoping I'd get that, but I didn't. Okay, what did I learn? Anything? Can I recycle that application for something else? Whatever. Also remember, a great application or project may not get funded, even though it's great. So not getting funded does not mean your project's not great. Reapply. It may not have, just like books, just like not every, Brett writes historicals. Not everybody digs historicals. So if Brett's project is a historical project and somebody is really like, and the jury is, sci-fi readers or fantasy readers or fabrics people or metal people or whatever, and that's their jam, and they don't resonate it and they don't connect with the way he presented his project, that doesn't mean that his application's crap or his project's crap. It just means that the jury who happened to be selected to look at his piece didn't like it. It's a crapshoot. Like they didn't resonate with it. So you can write the most exquisite application, just like you can write the most exquisite book possible and still not be a New York bestseller yet. Yeah. So be patient. Give yourself the time and space to write as kick-ass the application as we do for the books that we write, and just it'll be okay. Tweak for another opportunity. Or like my friend, she only changed the schedule. She kept the exact same application. She only changed the schedule because schedule's part of it. So the 9th time, it was the exact same application as 8 times before when it had been rejected. The 9th time it wasn't. It was accepted. And that's 4.5 years later.
Sarah?
Yep.
Can you only apply for Alberta grants because you live in Alberta? What if you wanted to do a historical thing in BC, for instance? I
would look at the guidelines of any BC arts ones, because there may be, I don't know if the province, I think the province of BC will be pretty strict and you have to live in BC, but there may be city ones or smaller nonprofit ones whose guidelines are less stringent, where the content just has to be supportive of BC, or present BC in a good light, or contribute to the artistic merit of BC or whatever. So read guidelines. Because different granting organizations have different rules. Just like Calgary Arts Development let me buy a new laptop up to $1,000. Like that was that was accepted. That was absolutely eligible. Other places, Alberta Foundation for the Arts, absolutely not. That's a no-go. So for Alberta, I have to live here. For Calgary, you don't have to live in Calgary, but you either have to live in Calgary, or your art has to somehow positively impact the citizens of Calgary. So if you can demonstrate that, then it's cool. So I'm assuming that other places, whether it's BC, Ontario, Newfoundland, Texas, I don't know, like wherever in the world, New Zealand, just read the guidelines, take time, and maybe once a month, just have it take 30 minutes to just go research guidelines and which ones are going to work for you, and set that calendar. Right. Because if you let's say you find it, but the application, you just missed an app, last month was the deadline. Well, there's going to be another one in 6 months. Sometimes it might be an annual one, but most of them that I've seen have been twice a year. So set a reminder on your calendar.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. And just don't give up, man. Be persistent, thick skin, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. It's cool. I will tell you, I got the Calgary Arts Development one. I applied for the Artist in Residence for Alberta. I did not get that one. That one came with, I think it was $25,000 for a project, and half the year you were expected to do your project, and the other half of the year you were expected to travel around Alberta as like an ambassador for the arts, whatever. So I applied for that, didn't get that. I didn't get the AFA one, Alberta Foundation for the Arts one. I didn't get the Canada Council one. But I got the Calgary Arts Development one, and I sent in a whole nother batch. Yeah, of other ones. April 8th is the next one for Canada Council. May is the next Calgary Arts Development one, and we just had March 1st was the Alberta Foundation for the Arts one. Those are the 3 that I've applied to so far, but there are more that I want to check out. Yeah. Okay, final thoughts. Get on those mailing lists. I know we get a lot of spam, but the classified, so I'm on the mailing list for Calgary Arts Development, and every time that comes, I read their classifieds. And I actually was a storyteller for the Energy Futures Lab, because on the classifieds, there was a call for storytellers. I applied, I got in, and then actually I got a second gig from them because one of the storytellers didn't write to scope. And so they're like, Sarah, oh my God, we need this done. Can you write a second story? So I got paid for 2 stories because I read the classifieds and in a timely fashion answered to them. So yeah, and that experience was amazing, like truly amazing. And I met a ton of people, one of which is actually, I had questions on hydrogen pipelines for current manuscript. So I met somebody that could help with that, and it was totally cool with me bugging her with book questions. So get on mailing lists and actually check out those classifieds because it's cool. Read any art classifieds you can find, because sometimes they're kind of buried, right? Like sometimes you think you filter them well, but there might be calls, submission calls that aren't filtered as submission calls. So yeah, just take the time to have a glance through. Also have a calendar for the application season and actually use it, right? Like it just, and with COVID stuff got a little wonky, and some things just got pushed back 6 months or canceled for, part of the session, which, happens, life happens. But I would highly recommend knowing that grant, if you're serious about applying for grants, know the granting cycles of the organizations that you're applying for, and start your applications a couple of months ahead of time. You have plenty of time. And then if other projects come up, or as you're contemplating one project, you're like, well, maybe I want to do that one. Because you have to know your project. You're not just getting paid to write anything. You have to tell them, I want to write this. This is why it's going to help me grow as an artist. This is how it's going to contribute to the arts world, our greater arts community. This is why I'm the perfect person to write this perfect story. That sort of thing. Set goals and take action every day, every week, every month. I know this sounds silly because I've heard it and I'm like, yeah, take action, blah, blah, blah. But it makes a difference when you actually do. I remember Marjana gave a kick-ass being organized as an artist presentation. Oh, I loved her presentation, but I wasn't in the head or heart space to actually implement what she had. A couple years later, I'm now in the head and heart space to rock that. And I do it a bit differently, but find what action works for you and take it. Don't just think about it. Don't just talk about it. Do it. Ooh, sorry. What was that last one? Why is that not letting me do that? Sorry. I'm going to do this so you can see it. Sorry that did that. If you are not happy with the pace or anything else of your writing career, consider what you can do. It is your career. Make decisions. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Adjust as many times as needed. And always remember, this is supposed to be a fun career that we absolutely adore and love, and that brings us joy and fills our bucket, not like drags us down and makes us irate and grumpy and sad and like tortured. So we do this because we love it and because that's who we are. This is who we are. We're writers. We are artists. This is what we do. But really, for me, when I looked back and I'm like, what have I accomplished in the last 12 years? And that's not what I thought I would have, but I never actually made a plan to make it any different or to to achieve anything different. So I strongly encourage you to reflect on your writing career. And is it where you want it to be? And if it is, bravo, that is so cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. And if it's not where you want it to be, if your writing career is not what you want it to be, that's okay. But decide what you can change, because only you can change your writing career. Like, as much as I would love if just opportunities just dropped in my lap and dropped in my lap and dropped in my lap and then sometimes opportunities absolutely drop in your lap, but they have to have a place to land, right? You have to be receptive to them. So be receptive to them. Yeah, this is your career, but you have to take action to actually make it work. So now I'll go to the last one. Open questions. So I can talk about budget templates, eligible expenses, timeline questions. I didn't want to go through this book or really my process, just because I thought each individual person's going to do things differently. I wanted to give you enough information to inspire you guys to go grab what you need, because the organizations that will fit for your project might be different. For instance, Brett going to the province for the heritage research ones, that'll be different than what Jessica's doing, what Cassandra's doing, what Shaw's doing, etc. So yeah, questions. What do you guys got?
Why do you keep bringing me up?
Because you're wonderful, Brett. And because I do a lot of historical stuff, like my day job, I did a lot of historical research. Yeah, that's why. I brought Jessica up a lot too.
Is there somewhere on the internet or a book that is more specifically to Canada and what is available?
I have not found it. I have not found it at all. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I did not find it. Once I saw this, I resonated with it. And so I just went with this. How I would also say though, unless it's current, because this book has stuff like, she's got an appendix with like listings of grants in every state, which is great, but you can find all that online, right? If you look at, arts funding opportunities, BC, or literary arts funding opportunities, BC. But that's another thing. Look at arts funding and look at writing, look at literary arts, because different things are labeled differently, right? So try a few different things in the search engine. Try a few different things because it's all there. It's just sometimes it's called different things. And sometimes you're in the same pool as other mediums and other times you're not. So for the Alberta Foundation for the Arts, you are in an individual literary arts. Like that's what I apply for, an individual literary art project grant. And then like dance has other, music has other, visual arts have other things you apply for. But others, it's like all mediums are just together. So, yeah. And there are a lot of bloggers out there actually will compile lists of grants to apply for or residencies to apply for or stuff like that. So there are lists out there, but some are like from 2017 and like the links don't work anymore or stuff like that. But still look for it. Just, it's cool. There's actually, there's a writing residency in a castle in Scotland for a month for January. And you have to, I have found it on a few different lists, and you have to apply snail mail. You actually have to write them like old school to apply and express interest. And
January,
a month in January. But the goal is to write something, right? Like to finish your, project. What's your project?
Yeah, freeze your balls off.
Totally, but in a friggin' castle, like.
Oh, yeah. Please, we're from Alberta. What can it possibly be frightening to us? As far as
we have central heating, and a Scottish castle probably doesn't. So I think you might get a nasty shock. I freeze to death in English houses in the winter because they are not heated the way we're used to.
And it's damp. Like the whole country.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. When Ruby's older, I'm totally going to apply for that one because it looks awesome.
It sounds amazing. I want to apply for it.
Mm-hmm. But there are so many residencies around the world And some, like, if you just need to buy a plane ticket and they'll get you, and then they cover room and board. Others, give you a stipend, so that you pay for your own food, but they cover your, where you're living. And others will cover your travel. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing the opportunities for artists out there. Like, it's really cool. The arts, people love art and they love to support it. And so we're really lucky. I actually feel really, really, really grateful and lucky. Sorry, I'm just going to say with those lists down there, the budget templates, most of them have a budget template that you can use, and it makes it really easy. And there's different, categories like artist fees or living expenses, like utilities, 12 months times, this is how much the average is or whatever. And usually it's like that. There's the description, the cost per unit, number of units total. Others will ask for in-kind donations. So let's say your project, let's say you think it's going to take you 300 hours to write a book. You could put in 300 hours, and what's your unit cost? So that's also tricky. How much do you charge out yourself as an artist fee? So if you're going to do artist fees, you have to know what your hourly rate is. And that's uncomfortable. I'll be honest. I was like, I don't know what's reasonable.
It better be at least as worth as much as my being at my normal job.
Well, for me, I work in environmental consulting with oil and gas. So that my hourly consulting rate is not what an arts threshold, I think, can. So I cut it. So I cut that. And that was a strategic thing. Now you could have a high rate and then have your in-kind, right? So let's say that with your rate and however many hours you're projecting it'll take you. And let's say the grant's for $25,000, and with your rate, it's actually going to cost you $50,000 to complete your project at that rate. Then your in-kind donations would be the $25,000 you put forward, right? Because you're going to write the book anyways. That's another thing they're looking for. Are you going to do this project anyways? And for some, it matters to them that you're going to do it whether you have funding or not. And for others, they're a little bit more lenient, and they know that you're only going to do this if you get funding. So do your research and know which granting agency. And sometimes you'll know what the granting agency is going to be about. And sometimes the jury is going to be the jury, and you might rub them the wrong way if you're like, I'm not going to do this if I don't get funding. And maybe you just leave that sentence out. One of the things that helped me for mine, I knew that I would write my manuscript years quicker. So I included that. I'm going to write this book, but being financially supported is going to help me do it quicker. Just help me achieve my goals quicker, grow as an artist quicker and more efficiently. And it worked. And it worked for one of the applications. It didn't for two of the other ones. So, yeah. But for other, like Alberta Foundation for the Arts, you can put in living expenses instead. So put your mortgage, right? If you think the project's going to take you 6 months, then for like 6 months of whatever your mortgage is, that's X amount of dollars for the grant. Food expenses. So it's 6 months, and this is your average food cost is this much. Add that to the grant expense. That sort of thing. They want to know. And some actually you just need artist fees. They don't do living expenses. But have it read the guidelines, but also if the project's going to take you 6 months and you put living expenses for 12 months, that's not congruent. They're like, why are we paying for a year when the project's only 6 months, right? So, kind of cross your T's and dot your I's, make sure what you're asking for fits what your project is. Also, I found applications there are redundancies in it. Like they'll ask the same thing in different places, and that's frustrating, but I'm like, well, they want me to include it here too, so I'm just going to include it here too. And I don't know if that's because different people look at different sections of it, but that was a head scratcher. But I'm like, I just follow the rules, Sarah. Just follow what the guidelines say. Don't say your guidelines are weird. And if you have questions, there's always a contact. If you have any questions on this, application, send it in. And some will even, if you give them enough time, they'll even review your application, which is cool. Because for my first AFA, Brenda reviewed it and she's like, this looks great. She's like, I can't guarantee anything, but I would not recommend you change anything. So I didn't get it, but it passed her, sniff test. So I had everything I needed in it. I just didn't get it. So book tours. Another friend of mine got an AFA grant to do an Alberta book tour, which is cool. She had a few books out. She wanted to do a tour. So the expenses, I'm assuming like gas, lodging, food, like food per diems, stuff like that, was covered by the grant, which is really cool. And again, read the fine print for what are eligible expenses, because each one's different. So just make sure you see what you can apply for and what you can't apply for. Yeah.
Sarah, that was fantastic.
You know what, like, it does, like, life doesn't have to be such a struggle. Like, art matters to a lot of people, and art matters to a lot of people with money to fund it because they care about it and they have the resources to fund it. So they do. Just like the Calgary Public Library keeps getting amazing donations that allow for, like, first they got a huge donation so we didn't have to pay, the annual fee for our library card. And then they got another huge donation or donations, again, anonymous donations, so that there are no more late fees. And it's really cool. So that there are people with resources that value books and community spaces and literacy. And so that's how they give to their community, which is really cool, like really cool. And we are artists, like just changing that headspace that, I'm a writer, but I'm part of the great, like, not all artists are writers, but I actually feel all writers are artists, right? Like, we do fit in that category of creators. And it's cool. It's really cool. And we can get funding, but it's hard. It's hard, but find ways to get your foot in the door. And I actually wondered if maybe ARWA wants to do, like, twice a year, have maybe an offshoot Zoom meeting where people are, talk about their proposal or ask proposal questions, or I don't know, just getting more traction, just helping each other get the traction that we want in our writing careers is cool. Okay, so research grants. Apply for a grant to support research projects that preserve, promote, or interpret Alberta's history. So I'm putting this in the Zoom link for everyone. Oops, chat. I'm gonna give you guys another link. That one I just looked up, and these are just Canadian residencies, writer residencies, and some they pay you $1,000 for 4 weeks to just be there. Which, being paid, $1,000 isn't a lot of money, but being paid to write for 4 weeks is in a cool place. Looks neat.
Yeah, it could be a small town, Saskatchewan. It could be Canada.
Oh yeah, there's East End. I saw that. I'm like, I know where East End is. That is not what I thought of when I'm like, let's go to a writing residency somewhere.
I think I'd go anywhere at the moment. I'm just going stir crazy right now.
Oh my gosh, I hear you.
I think I might. David's really bad, and he doesn't. But I'm just thinking to myself, I think I'm just going to find a safe-looking place and go away for a little retreat for a few days. Crawling the walls. When I'm just finishing some paintings for 2 show deadlines, and I think I'm going to look at a week after that.
Awesome.
Good stuff. That would be nice. That would be really nice. Go and work on my novel.
Good stuff. So I have a question. Who's going to apply for a grant?
I'm going to look. I'm not going to promise that I'll apply, but I'm certainly going to definitely look, particularly residencies.
Yeah. Yeah, the residencies, man. Like, because when I was going, like, when I'm really trying to unpack my why, because there are easier ways to make your living than being a writer. Like, there are way easier ways to make your living than being a writer. And so as I'm trying to unpack my why, being able to work anywhere in the world is one of the things that is super attractive to me about writing. besides like I love writing and I love the medium, blah, blah, blah. But being able to work remotely anywhere on the planet is super exciting, and travel is super important to me. And not frilly travel, right? Like I hate hotels. I think I love Airbnbs or camping or stuff like that. So looking at residencies, that's actually completely up my alley for the why with writing. So it's super exciting. There are so many opportunities, and I guess I didn't really realize how many there were until I started looking, right? Because like like we haven't talked about grants like this or writing residencies like this, and I know at WWC we certainly have. Well, like we apply for we get grants for WWC, but that's just to put the conference on. So yeah, like none of my writing circles have talked about this. It was all my other artist friends in different mediums that that's just their world. Grants are just part of how they do what they do and have been, you know, how they make their living. And I'm like, dang, I gotta get on that.
Interesting, because I have to say, before this talk, I was like, I'm not, this doesn't interest me. I'll come and listen because, you know.
Because it's nice to see people's faces.
And actually, you've really kind of made me go, oh, maybe I could take myself a bit more seriously. Maybe I would be able to write a grant. Maybe people would, you know, like maybe this could actually happen. Like, but I have to step up to being, you know,
and more. And that again is, I feel, part of the magic of art grants is that when you step up and actually commit to something like that, you're taking yourself seriously, you're believing in your art, you're believing in yourself enough to say, I want to do this project, and I want you to pay me this amount of money to do this project, and I will do it. I will do it because I'm committing to it and I believe in it. It's like, I didn't realize the avalanche of positive things and mental head game things I didn't even think about when I applied. I just knew that I wanted to write more, and it had been years and I wasn't getting the traction I wanted in my writing career. And again, the only thing I could give on, or I was willing to give on, was my day job, which wasn't fulfilling me at all. Yeah. So, and it was interesting. The day I heard that I got the Calgary Arts Development Grant was the exact same day that I realized that I could not continue with the partners that we had for our environmental consulting business, like company. I'd had enough, and I had had enough. And we made that decision, and then later that day I got the word that I'd got the grant, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, when one door, and that one I slammed shut myself, I'm like, this is not for me. I hate this. It's driving me crazy. This is not, you know, who I am or the ethics that I want to be anywhere near. Slam that door, and then and then later that same freaking day I got word that I got accepted and got approved. Awesome. Yeah, it was successful.
That's amazing.
So, it really was, and I can't overstate how good it's been. And it sucks when you don't get it. So like the first time I applied for the Calgary Arts Development one, I got it, and it was a big one, like 10 grand, like holy crap, that's big. And then the other ones I was like, you know, kind of riding the, yay, I got it wave, and I didn't get the other ones, and I was like, but again, so like it's part of the process. And yeah, so just know that it might be a little emotional roller coaster, but so is the whole business of writing. So yeah,
I got that right.
Yeah, and it's just fodder. So when we write characters that go through emotional roller coasters, we can really like emote that well. Yeah, it's good. So I'm glad that you guys that you liked it and that it was inspiring.
Oh, Sarah, that was awesome. That was
good.
Hard to believe it's here.
Not only was it informative, it was like really inspirational.
Good, because like, geez, like
it really, really was.
And when I really, like, as I was getting this presentation ready, which is so funny because I started it actually 3 weeks ago, and I didn't think it would take me a long time to do. Right? I didn't. And last week it wasn't coming together at all. I'm like, holy crap. Okay, like whatever, just process, let it percolate, it's cool. And then Monday I'm like, okay, just hammer out that presentation, and like it wouldn't, like it was really interesting because it has, bless you, it has been such an emotional
I was just going to
wasn't
say,
expecting that.
when things are
expecting that.
emotional, when there's lots of
Yeah.
emotional things tied to something,
Yeah.
sometimes it makes that project hard to do, right?
It was so hard to do. So then yesterday, and actually, like early Friday morning, like 3 a.m, I woke up and I'm like, I have to do that project. I have to finish that presentation. And I almost woke up at 3 a.m. to do it. I'm like, no, you're fine, Sarah, it's fine. So actually I finished the application for the Norton Island residency, got that in, and then I felt like I could breathe. And then this presentation flowed and it went in a completely different direction. That was good. I do want to also show you this book. Has anyone heard of this?
Mm-hmm.
The War of Art. So I was reading another book and it quoted this book and I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. So I checked it out from the library and it's really good. And it talks about resistance, mostly the resistance to the, why we don't get our butt in the chair, or why when our butt's in the chair, we're not writing what we want to write, or it doesn't flow, or it doesn't feel good, or whatever. That is a very good book. And it actually is further helping me unpack why it's taken 12 years for me to step up in my writing career and actually really take the reins and go, no, I got this. I want to rock this now. It's cool. I got this. So also highly recommend that book. So
if you're just looking for a place to go and write with no real obligations, relatively cheap, maybe not the best of living conditions, are monasteries. There's a number of them that offer residency where you go and it's for your quiet contemplation, that sort of thing. Just 2 summers ago, I was walking the first part of the Via Francigena, which is the traditional pilgrimage route from Canterbury to Rome. Nice. I was doing just the first part through France, and I stopped at several monasteries, and they had people there who were there for the quiet contemplation for periods of time. Now, you're going to have to get rid of the kids.
Yes.
You're probably not allowed to have you're not going to be allowed with probably not your husband or your paramour or whoever it is you're traveling with at that time, but you can do it. And these were interesting places, and they weren't expecting me to join in any of the religious material, except that for dinner for the sometimes they have a various bit of chanting and that sort of thing. Now, I don't know how you research what these places exactly are like, because the place one of them with the monks, these guys, if you went there, you're going to lose a lot of pounds. You're going to come out a lot thinner. Whereas if you go where I went where the nuns were, and these were all ladies with ample bottom. So I don't know how you assess that in any one way, but if you're just looking for a place to go and sit and quietly, then that might be a way to do it. Now they didn't have computer links for the people who are in residence or people who are staying there. The monasteries themselves were online, but if you were going to send out information or anything of that sort, you have to go to the small library, which may not have that either, too. But anyway, just a suggestion if you want to go and hide somewhere. I know there's that one just outside of Calgary where I forget the name of it at the moment, near Cochrane. Yeah. I think they have people who can come in for residencies and stay there for a week or two of quieter contemplation. I know there's some in the U.S. as well, too. So if you're just looking for a place to go and be quiet without necessarily influence, I wouldn't take your Playboy magazines there, but otherwise you should be okay.
Right on. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's I've actually heard that before too. Yeah, and where near or just outside my hometown there was a monastery, and it was a great place for people to go, whether they just wanted to walk the grounds and be chill or stay there for quite a reasonable rate. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
good
reasonable is
that's awesome. So with that having, so I asked about grants. Are people gonna check out residencies. Anybody inspired? Yeah,
Oh,
I know it's
yeah.
still tricky with COVID, but
Well, for whenever COVID's over, I'm kind of curious about that castle in Scotland now. So,
oh, I'll try to find a link for you guys right now.
I have a question, Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just lost my job on the 1st. Okay.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry to
that-
hear that.
Yeah, I am too. We're still kind of grieving, a bunch of us. That's life. We carry on. And so what I'm going to do now, before I go for a grant, my plan was to go onto EI. Now, marketing. I want to take a marketing course. Should I do that and take social media, which I hate, but anyway, I've got to do it before I even consider a grant? Like, is
Hey.
marketing and social media kind of, I need that. I know that, right?
But why would you have to take that before you apply for a grant?
Well, because it's a little bit of knowledge that I thought maybe we'd need, the marketing and the social media, like.
But you're not applying to promote unless you are applying. If you're writing a grant to apply to market your book, then those are reasonable. But if your grant application is to do a project, to write a book or a series of books or whatever, then I don't actually see how a social media course would be relevant to that particular grant application.
Yeah, like get this done before I even go into going for a grant.
But I don't, in my head, I don't know why you're linking the two. I don't understand the link between the two, because grants, you don't have to, the grants I've seen, they're not looking for you to bug them about selling your book. Quite the opposite. They're not interested. They're interested in supporting artists doing their art. And so if your end game is to get it published, that's great. But that's not part of the project or process that they're involved in. And many grants are very clear. They want nothing to do with helping people self-publish their books.
Okay.
Now, writing your book that you end up self-publishing, two separate things.
Okay, yeah, I want to write, and keep going with the writing. That's my main thing.
So if you want to write, then and I might be wrong, I'm not the be all end all at all, but I did not take any social media courses before I applied for grants.
Oh, okay.
None. Because I mean I know that's important for selling books, but the grants I apply for are artist grants for creating art, not for selling art.
Okay.
I need the
creation too. I definitely need the creation too.
Yeah. You might find taking those courses handy when down the road.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you may not get the grant right away. You got to be doing something, right?
Or even if you want to write a grant to get support to take those courses to help you sell your books, that's absolutely legit. There are grants available for the post-production part. Absolutely. But if you want to get a grant to write a book, it doesn't have anything to do with social media.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That, at least the ones I've looked at, have not.
Yeah, okay.
I have a question. I'm just wondering, like, in all the grants that you came across, like when you said you didn't qualify for the Canada Council one, were there a lot of them that you had to have something published or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and in the grants world, publishing does not mean self-publishing. In the grants world for, which they're slow, they're slow to change and they're slow to shift. And when the opportunity comes, to fill out the little, Canadian citizen survey for Canada Council for the Arts on what they're, how they can improve. Did I absolutely put that? Like, get with the times, people? Yes. So read eligibility guidelines, and understand them and follow them. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Now for Alberta Foundation for the Arts, they didn't say you had to have so many published. No, they did not. However, your artist CV you have to demonstrate, you know, like if I wrote an arts grant, you know, to learn how to play the bagpipes today, I don't think I would be successful because I have no prior history of being interested in playing the bagpipes, right? Like I can't demonstrate an active interest in that. But for writers, even if you're not published yet, or if you're self-published, being a member of ARWA, attending When Words Collide, attending Surrey, whatever, taking part in library thing, you know, like whatever your artist resume or your artist CV is, like demonstrating that, you know, that interest. And if you don't have anything published, but you've been writing for 20 years, like say that, or you've been writing for 5 years and you don't have anything published, you know, just be honest and just say, this is my journey. And I really wanted, you know, this is where I started and this is what I'm doing. And this is where I want to go. And I know financial support will help me get where I want to go as an artist. Yeah, just tell your story. That's one of the things Brenda, the woman who is like the contact for Alberta Foundation for the Arts for the individual literary project. She was really big on that. She's like, tell your story. What you just told me and what, you know, I was in person. It was a one-on-one session, which was amazing. She's like, what you just said, write that, because that's compelling. That's interesting. Like the passion you have is really exciting and cool. So just write that. And she's like, you got me. Like you got me convinced, like, tell your story. And yeah. And so I did, and it didn't get accepted, but maybe next time, maybe in September, it'll be accepted. So yeah. What else was I going to tell you?
Sarah, just one of the things you could apply for a grant for, like when you did your rebranding of Kiss Me in the Rain, you got to pay for more covers and you got to pay for editorial. Like, is that something they will give money for?
You know what? Yeah, because my editor, Adrienne, she averages, for the length of my books, it's about $1,500 for a substantive edit from her. And that, for me, that's a lot of money. And so I included that as part of my budget, as part of the project. So not only artist fees for me to get paid to write the project, but also money to pay her for a substantive edit. So yeah, that was absolutely accepted.
So it's like because we're writers, we don't take courses necessarily in writing, but we hire somebody like a substantive editor that would show you what to change.
Yep. So a substantive editor, the organization does not support self-published work, then they won't support that.